Have you ever come across a person who appears extremely religious and faithful, but acts completely differently when no one is watching? Or someone who uses verses, religious precepts, or spiritual speeches to justify behaviors such as manipulation, control, or even emotional abuse? Additionally, have you ever felt guilty, confused, or distressed after a conversation or while attending a religious center? Perhaps I have the answer to these bad feelings that you can't explain. Today we will explore the profile of the religious narcissist and how they distort faith to manipulate and control others. Stay until the end to understand how to identify these toxic dynamics and regain your spiritual peace. Let's start by understanding what a religious narcissist is. The term may sound new, but the behavior is more common than one might think. A religious narcissist is not just someone devout who dedicates themselves to their faith. In reality, this person uses spirituality as an extension of their need for power and personal validation. Religion or belief becomes a strategic tool to control others, create emotional dependence, and feed their ego. These individuals often hold prominent positions in religious communities, whether as leaders, counselors, or exemplary members. They may quote sacred texts skillfully, offering distorted interpretations that justify their actions. For example, someone might use verses about obedience to pressure others into following their orders, even when it goes against universal principles like respect and freedom. But the problem is not with faith itself. Any belief system can be exploited by someone with narcissistic traits. What defines this pattern is the way religion is used to manipulate, blame, or create artificial hierarchies. Someone may preach humility while constantly seeking attention or talk about compassion, but act with coldness and indifference behind the scenes. Another striking aspect is duality. While projecting a public image of holiness, these people often disrespect boundaries, betray trust, or engage in actions that contradict the values they publicly defend. This hypocrisy generates confusion and strain in relationships. Those who interact with a religious narcissist may feel judged by impossible standards to achieve, while the manipulator themselves seems free of any guilt. These behaviors are subtle, but have profound impacts. Understanding how they work is the first step to protecting your spirituality and preventing it from being distorted by selfish interests. Now, how do you identify a religious narcissist? Identifying a religious narcissist can be challenging, especially because these individuals are masters at creating a facade of kindness and spirituality. However, there are clear signs that can help you see beyond the mask. The first clue is blatant hypocrisy. They preach virtues like love, humility, and forgiveness, but their actions completely contradict their words. For example, someone might constantly talk about the importance of forgiving others, but harbor resentment and manipulate situations to punish those they consider unfaithful or disobedient. Another notable trait is the use of control. Religious narcissists often impose strict rules and extreme interpretations of spiritual teachings. They create an environment of constant surveillance, where any deviation from the norms is seen as an act of rebellion against the faith, or even against God. This type of emotional manipulation makes victims feel compelled to obey, even when something feels wrong or uncomfortable. A lack of empathy is also revealing. While they appear concerned about the spiritual well-being of others, their actions in practice show disdain for the needs and feelings of others. They may invalidate your emotions, minimize your problems, or blame your lack of faith for any difficulty you face. This dynamic creates a cycle of dependency, where you feel compelled to seek constant approval to compensate for the imposed guilt. Lastly, they often assume the role of the victim. When confronted, they use narratives of persecution or injustice to gain sympathy from the community. For example, someone might say they are being attacked by negative forces or unjustly accused, while in reality, they are acting abusively. This strategy works because it diverts attention from their own mistakes and puts others on the defensive. These behaviors not only confuse, but also isolate. Those who interact with a religious narcissist may feel trapped in a labyrinth of contradictions, unsure of who or what to trust. Recognizing these patterns is essential to breaking the cycle of manipulation and regaining your spiritual autonomy. The emotional impact of interacting with a religious narcissist can be devastating. Guilt is one of the main weapons used by these individuals, and it manifests in subtle but corrosive ways. When someone distorts spiritual teachings to make you feel inadequate or less faithful, the result is deep internal discomfort. You begin to question your own choices, thoughts, and even your relationship with faith. This feeling of inadequacy can turn into constant anxiety, as if you could never live up to the divine standard. A standard that, in reality, was fabricated by the manipulator. Beyond guilt, there is mental confusion. The religious narcissist creates contradictory narratives. They preach unconditional love but act with control and punishment. They speak about spiritual freedom but impose rigid rules. This ambiguity leaves victims lost, unsure of what to believe or how to act. Distress arises when they realize that this person's behavior does not align with the values they claim to uphold, yet they still feel pressured to accept their demands. Another factor is the sense of isolation. Those who interact with a religious narcissist often feel excluded or judged by the community, especially if they attempt to question the manipulator's actions. This creates a feeling of spiritual loneliness, as if no one else sees the contradictions or is willing to confront them. These feelings do not arise by chance. They are the result of a toxic dynamic designed to maintain control. The religious narcissist exploits your spiritual vulnerability to shape your emotions and decisions. However, by understanding how this mechanism works, you begin to dismantle the cycle of pain and confusion. Recognizing the origin of these feelings is already a powerful step toward liberation. Now, how do you protect yourself from a religious narcissist? Protecting yourself from a religious narcissist requires clarity, courage, and practical strategies. The first step is trusting your discernment. Although the manipulator may try to convince you that their interpretations are the only valid ones, your intuition can be a powerful ally. If something feels wrong or contradictory, don't ignore that sign. Ask yourself, is this message aligned with universal values of love, compassion, and respect? If the answer is no, you are likely dealing with a selfish distortion of faith. The second step is studying your faith independently. Many religious narcissists exploit others' lack of knowledge to impose their own interpretations. By seeking to directly understand the teachings of your religion or spiritual practice, you gain autonomy. Read sacred texts, watch lectures from trusted experts, and participate in healthy discussions. When you feel confident in your knowledge, it becomes harder to be manipulated by distorted rhetoric. Setting clear boundaries is another crucial measure. Saying no to someone who tries to control your life in the name of faith can be challenging, but it is essential for preserving your emotional health. Establish limits on what you are willing to hear and which behaviors you consider unacceptable. For example, if someone uses guilt to pressure you into acting against your will, calmly assert that you will not accept that kind of manipulation. Well-defined boundaries help protect your energy and dignity. Seeking external support is also vital. Talk to trusted people who can offer a balanced perspective on the situation. Sometimes family members or friends may see the toxic behavior when we are blinded by fear or confusion. Additionally, professionals such as psychologists or spiritual counselors can help process the emotions caused by manipulation and guide your healing journey. Finally, remember that your faith should be a source of peace, not suffering. If someone is using your beliefs to control you, this does not reflect the true purpose of spirituality. Free yourself from this negative influence by rediscovering what truly matters to you. The journey to liberation may be gradual, but every small decision toward authenticity strengthens your connection to your true essence. Understanding the behavior of a religious narcissist goes beyond identifying manipulation. It's about reclaiming your spiritual autonomy. When you recognize the tactics used to control and blame, you begin to dismantle the cycle of confusion and pain. Remember, true faith does not imprison but liberates. It is not a tool of power in the hands of a few, but a path of growth accessible to all. Share your experience in the comments. Real stories are powerful tools to inspire and support those in need. If this video made sense to you, know that there is a link in the description with carefully prepared support materials to help you understand what you've experienced. Rebuild your self-esteem and move forward with greater ease. The learning continues. The next video contains essential information for you. Tap the screen and check it out.